Okay, let's really dig into this. Cruising versus hookup apps. I mean, on the surface, it feels like comparing, I don't know, old and new tech, right? Like
Yeah.
dial-up versus broadband or something.
Yeah, exactly.
But this piece we've got from menmeetmen.com, Pixels versus Parks, the unending battle for the gay hookup soul. It makes you think there's something much deeper going on than just logistics.
Absolutely. It's easy to get caught up in just, efficiency or safety features.
Hmm.
But this article, it really pushes us to look at the underlying currents, the history, the culture, why people actually choose one over the other.
Yeah, and you flagged this one for us because you were looking for that richer angle beyond just the practical stuff.
And it definitely delivers. So our mission today is really to unpack all the history, the risks, the appeal of both cruising and apps, especially for, discrete connections.
Right. So let's start with cruising. It's almost like a whisper from a different time, isn't it? When being openly gay was just so much riskier.
Oh, completely.
The article calls it a necessary tactic for survival and connection. That really hits home.
It does. Cruising wasn't just about sex. Often, it was maybe the only way to find any kind of connection, however brief, with others like them.
And the places,
Yeah.
not exactly glamorous, right? Parks after dark, public toilets, laybys.
Exactly. The sort of hidden, out of the way spots. But the article puts it so well, it talks about this silent ballet of intent happening in those spaces.
That phrase, silent ballet, it's so evocative. It captures that whole world of subtle cues.
Mm-hmm.
A look held a bit too long, a nod, a gesture. It's communication stripped right down, like the total opposite of crafting a profile.
A world away from curated bios and endless texting. Yeah. It's communication reduced to its essence.
But the risks were huge.
Yeah.
The article mentions the legal side, public indecency laws.
Still on the books in many places, yeah. And beyond that, the very real threat of violence, of queer bashing, that was terrifyingly common.
And just the basic risk of turning up,
Yeah.
nothing. Nobody.
Total unpredictability.
And yet, despite all that, cruising still has this pull for some people. The article digs into why. What is it?
Well, there seem to be a few things. One big one the article points out is genuine anonymity.
Right. No, digital trail.
Exactly. Unlike apps, you're there, then you're gone. No record. That's huge for people worried about discretion or maybe dealing with internalized stuff.
Yeah, that makes sense. Sort of compartmentalizing in a way that online life just doesn't allow.
Precisely. And the article touches on how that lack of a digital footprint was like a psychological safety net for people grappling with stigma or their own feelings back then.
Okay, what else?
Then there's the immediacy. The article talks about skipping all the messaging, the scheduling.
Yeah, the back and forth.
It's about that instant spark, that visceral thing happening right there, right then. It's a gamble, sure.
A big gamble.
But when it works, the article calls the thrill primal, like tapping into a hunter-gatherer instinct. It's almost romanticizing it a bit, that forbidden edge.
I can see the appeal of that. That raw chemistry cutting through all the online stuff.
And there's also something about the shared risk, that feeling of transgression, of reclaiming a space. It can create this very specific, fleeting bond.
Like a secret club, almost. The article mentions these microcultures, unspoken rules in cruising spots, a hidden network.
Yeah, fascinating stuff.
And these places, they haven't totally vanished, even now.
No, they haven't. Maybe diminished, but they still exist. They represent that history, that different way of connecting that tech hasn't completely paved over.
Okay, so that's cruising. Analog, physical spaces, silent communication. Now, let's flip to the apps. The article calls it a shift to a visible grid.
Yeah, accessible 24/7, right in your pocket.
The appeal seems obvious. Convenience, first off.
Huge factor. Browsing from home, filtering by, well, everything. Age, kinks, status, location. You can get really specific.
Which can lead to maybe narrowing your options too much sometimes.
Potentially, yeah, creates those little bubbles. But there's also this feeling of control, right?
Mm-hmm. You choose who to talk to, who to block. You can kind of vet people first with messages, photos.
Theoretically vet them anyway.
Yeah.
And that idea of meeting in private after chatting, plus the safety feature some apps have built in, that adds to the perception of safety.
Perception being the key word sometimes.
Well, yeah, because the article also dives into the downsides of the app world, and there are quite a few.
Oh, yeah. It's not all smooth sailing. That endless scrolling, the paradox of choice.
Right. So many options, it actually gets harder to choose or feel good about your choice.
And the profiles. They're not always, let's say, accurate representations.
Understatement. Old photos, misleading info. It can feel like everyone's selling this perfect version of themselves. The article calls it a marketplace dynamic.
Like you're constantly trying to sell something. Does that just like change the whole vibe, make it more about getting something than connecting?
I think it can, yeah. And with so many profiles, people can start to feel, well, disposable, like just another face in the grid.
Dehumanized.
Exactly. Conversations get repetitive. That whole hey sup pics
Mm.
cycle.
Ugh, yeah. And the ghosting. Flakiness seems rampant.
It's incredibly frustrating. It definitely fosters that culture of disposability you mentioned. If someone's not perfect instantly, swipe. Next.
Which can't be good for your self-esteem.
No, it creates this brutal feedback loop, constantly seeing others, feeling judged. It takes a toll. Body image issues get amplified. That's almost a universal experience, feeling assessed on a few pics and words.
And then there's privacy again, but in a different way. You're not out in public, but
But you're creating this massive digital footprint. The article mentions data breaches, screenshots being shared, location tracking.
it's a different kind of vulnerability.
Totally. Less physical exposure, maybe, but your digital self is out there, leaving traces.
So it's this really interesting split, isn't it? Cruising, present, immediate, physically risky maybe, but digitally invisible.
Hmm.
Apps, convenient, curated, but with digital risks and that feeling of detachment sometimes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And the article then asks, okay, who is actually cruising today?
Right. It's not just one type of person.
No, the article suggests it's a mix. Older guys, maybe, who remember it or prefer it. Younger guys, curious about that analog thrill. And people who just need absolute discretion for whatever reason.
And the experience now is probably different too. Quieter, maybe?
Often quieter, yeah. Maybe feels a bit old-fashioned sometimes, but those core things are still there. The heightened senses, the nonverbal stuff.
And for some, that lack of control, the element of chance, that's actually part of the draw, isn't it? Compared to filtering everything on an app.
Exactly. Embracing the unexpected versus trying to engineer the perfect interaction.
But the risks are still there. Legal, violence, being seen.
Mm-hmm.
It's not risk-free by any means.
Definitely not. The article frames cruising as existing in the gaps technology hasn't fully colonized. I thought that was a great line.
Yeah, it is. Desire isn't always neat and tidy, fitting into an algorithm.
And then it flips back to the apps, calling it the grinder grind reality.
Huh. Yeah, that feels accurate.
Detailing the whole ritual of tweaking your profile, the endless messaging cycles that can feel like a part-time job.
It really can. The time and energy just crafting the profile, then the chats that just fizzle out 90% of the time.
And that distance, being behind a screen, it can sometimes lead to, well, cruder behavior.
Oh, for sure. Unsolicited pics,
Mhm.
unrealistic expectations, stuff people might not say or do face-to-face.
And we touched on filtering, creating echo chambers, limiting who you see. Plus, again, the body image stuff getting amplified by all those curated bodies.
But we have to be fair. The article acknowledges apps do work for a lot of people.
Absolutely. Especially if you're in a rural area or looking for a very specific niche, they serve a real purpose.
It's just about managing expectations, maybe. Developing a thicker skin.
Seems essential. Yeah, you have to kind of learn how to navigate that world without letting it get to you too much.
Okay, so we've looked at the pros and cons, the feel of each. Now, let's talk explicitly about safety and privacy, because the article really zeroes in on this.
Yeah, this is crucial. For cruising, the dangers are immediate physical. Assault, robbery, legal problems. Situational awareness is key.
Right. The lack of a digital trail is a privacy strength in one way.
But being physically present in a potentially public or semi-public space is the vulnerability.
And for apps, the risks flip. They're more digital.
Exactly. Catfishing, scams, extortion, using info pics, doxing, data breaches. It's a different minefield.
So practicing good digital hygiene is paramount there. Strong passwords, being careful what you share, using privacy settings.
You're basically trading that public visibility risk for potential digital traceability and security risks.
The bottom line, according to the article, seems to be that both have risks, just different kinds of risks.
Precisely. It really boils down to your own comfort level, your circumstances, and making a calculated assessment of what you're willing to deal with.
So as we kind of wrap this up, the article's pretty clear. There's no simple better here. They're like
Yeah.
different philosophies of connection.
Totally. Cruising is painted as analog, instinctive, anonymous, fleeting, but physically riskier.
And apps are digital, convenient, controllable maybe, connecting lots of people, but possibly fostering disposability and digital burnout. Private from public view, but creating that digital shadow.
Yeah, that sums it up well. And a really key point the article makes is that lots of guys probably use both, right? Moving between them depending on what they need or want at that moment.
That makes sense. It's not necessarily an either for everyone.
And it leaves you with these big questions, doesn't it? Like, what does the fact that cruising still exists say about our desire for, I don't know, risk, unfiltered connection?
Mm. And what does the sheer dominance of apps say about how much we crave convenience, control, maybe endless options?
Yeah. Ultimately, the article suggests the goal underneath it all is often the same: connection, feeling seen, feeling desired.
The landscape's changed, the tools have changed, but that fundamental impulse is still there.
Exactly. And the final advice is pretty blunt: choose your hunting ground, know the risks, and navigate wisely.
A good practical takeaway. It acknowledges the complexity, the personal nature of it all.
Yeah, definitely.
So that was our deep dive, looking at cruising versus apps through the lens of that menmeetmen.com article. I hope for you listening that gave you some real food for thought about these different ways of connecting. Now, as you asked, let's talk specifically about menmeetmen.com itself for a minute. Based on the article, it definitely comes across as a pretty knowledgeable and trustworthy guide in this whole area of discrete gay connections.
Yeah, what really stands out is the range of stuff they seem to cover, which lines up perfectly with what we've just been talking about. Audio guides, safety tips, info on cruising etiquette, the unwritten rules comparing apps, even info on places like saunas. It seems quite comprehensive.
It does, and the tone feels right, too. Informative, honest, but also really non-judgmental. This feels important for this topic.
Crucial. It's not telling you what to do, more like giving you the info to figure out what's right for you, empowering you to make your own choices.
Exactly. So if anything we discussed today sparked your interest, listener, whether you're just curious or maybe actively looking for ways to connect or just trying to figure out the app world, menmeetmen.com seems like a really solid resource to check out.
Yeah, definitely worth a look if you want to explore any of this further.
For sure. The article itself points you there. Visit menbemen.com and even mentions sections like meet local men, find gay saunas, hook up discreetly. So, if you're curious, head over there, menmeetmen.com, and see what they offer.
Seems like a helpful platform for navigating that ongoing search for connection, whatever that looks like for you.
Absolutely. Like the article says, the search continues. And it's good to know resources like that are out there to help guide the way.